Summertime Rendering might just have one of the best opening episodes of any anime that came out this entire decade. At least a first episode that's only 24 minutes long. The protagonist of our story wakes up from a weird dream and finds himself in the arms of a beautiful lady.
I didn't mean to! I'm sorry, I swear!
This is Ajiro Shinpei, who's come back from Tokyo to his home island in order to attend the funeral of his childhood friend Ushio Kofune. And within the first 5 minutes, we're already greeted to our second fanservice scene. This anime is going to be incredible. Then soon enough, Miu and Shinpei make their way to the funeral grounds. He says his goodbyes to Ushio and he meets his friends and family for the first time in 2 years. Everything seems to be going relatively fine at first, but something in the air of this island just doesn't feel quite right. Like, why was there a seemingly random flash during Ushio's funeral ceremony? Why does that kid look so lifeless? Why did this police officer click his tongue in this obviously evil manner? What exactly are these shadows this old man is talking about? And wait a minute, was that a gunshot just now? No fucking way. Is that the lady from the boat earlier? What the fuck is even going on anymore?
Do you remember what Dad always used to say? Until you wash the dishes and wipe the table down completely, you're not done cooking.
And just like that, our story ends before it could even begin. Wait, something's off here. Why is there still some time left in this episode?
No!
There's no fucking way. It's that same beautiful lady's G-cups from earlier. And this right here is why Summertime Render's first episode is among the best of the best we've seen in a long time. This anime introduces almost every main character, shows you the mysterious side of the island, makes you fully understand what's at stake here, but most importantly, it makes you ask questions. And it does all of that in a single 24-minute episode. After that insane opening episode happens and Shinpei learns that he can travel back into the past whenever he's killed, the real story of Summertime Render finally begins. There's these things called shadows that can transform into anyone and take their place if left unchecked. They might be someone you know, someone you care for, or someone you thought was previously dead. Almost every shadow that exists is evil in nature, and they are far more powerful than your average human being. Which absolutely sucks for Shinpei, as his only real weapon is his ability to time travel. But maybe if he stands his ground, uses his knowledge from previous loops to his advantage, and figures out what exactly these shadows are up to, he might just be able to take care of the supernatural problem on his own.
This is where you were hiding, Shinchan.
Well shit. So that plan clearly doesn't work. Maybe let's just go team up with Miss Nagumo and Ushio Shadow to get rid of these unnatural creatures. That works so much better. Summertime Render has a constantly developing storyline where everyone plays their each individual part in moving the plot forward inch by inch, revealing just enough information to keep you engaged with the mystery, while also not turning into a frustrating mess of a show. Looking at you, Tokyo Revengers. Shinpei is the kind of competent main character who you wanna root for at every turn of the story. He might not have the ability to save everyone on his own, but he does have things that he wants to protect at all costs, for which he is ready to keep suffering through any and all pain until the very last second just to get more information out of his situation before he has to start the process all over again. Yet even with all his knowledge and strength he manages to gather after each loop, Shinpei rarely ever has the upper hand in a fight. It's almost cruel just how powerless Shinpei is against the shadows who pose a very real threat to both him and his loved ones. No matter how careful or calculated Shinpei behaves with the people around him, the entire situation can still suddenly turn against him in the blink of an eye. And this creates a constant sense of urgency in each episode as the shadows are always right behind, if not one step ahead of Shinpei at all times, meaning that more often than not, Shinpei and the gang has to fight tooth and nail just to survive another day, only for one small miscalculation to fuck them over right at the very end. Every single time loop brings with it a different set of problems that Shinpei has to overcome, which means the story keeps getting more and more convoluted every single time Shinpei returns by death. And I mean that in the best way possible. Don't believe me? Well, have a look at this timeline. Every single thing is properly connected from one point to the next with no plot holes to speak of. It's a show full of jaw-dropping twists and turns that are carefully placed and executed throughout the series. Which does mean that Summertime Rendering is a plot-driven story more than being a character-driven one. In some areas, the story functions less like your typical anime and much more like a video game.
This isn't some video game.
Actually, it's exactly like a video game. The author of Summertime Render has actually revealed in an interview that the story and setting was inspired by a 2000s horror game called Forbidden Siren, which was actually worked on by the same guys who made the Silent Hill game. And that inspiration seems pretty obvious if you've seen the show. Even without knowing all the direct and specific references the anime makes towards that game, you can still feel the author's love for video games oozing out of the story. I mean, they literally spend like a solid 2 minutes in episode 18 talking about video games and Final Fantasy VII. The story of Summertime Render unravels itself like a video game full of checkpoints and everything, where one clue leads to the next, which leads to the next one, which leads to a hidden unexplored area, which leads to, oh my god, we're all gonna die. When you have a story as interesting as this, you don't even need to do anything more than just show it for what it is. And yet Studio OLM went out of their way to adapt the living shit out of it. The action and fights in this anime are fast-paced, smooth-looking, but more than anything, they are gruesome as fuck. People here get tortured, stabbed, sliced in half, and some are literally crushed to death. This show isn't meant to be a horror anime, but it sure as hell feels like one. Just look at this literal child distorting the very rules of reality like it's nothing. I'm scared for my life. They really know how to draw an animate expression showcasing anger, frustration, and pain without making it look too edgy. Okay, that face is really asking for it, not gonna lie. Instead of using generic weapons like swords or guns, they use nail guns, giant hammers, and sharp as fuck hair as their go-to shadow killing weapons, which makes for some really cool and surprisingly well thought out fight sequences that honestly blew me away. The soundtrack, however, is where the anime really sets itself apart. The OST goes perfectly with the summertime atmosphere and the unsettling tone of the anime, which I've also used in a lot of my videos. In fact, I would argue that without this OST, the anime wouldn't be nearly as suspenseful and dreadful as it turned out to be. There's tracks on this playlist that put your mind at ease, silently subjecting you to believe that nothing can possibly go wrong from this point on, only for the ethereal chimes and the uncanny voices of a disturbed child to kick back in and remind you of the kind of story we're dealing with here. If you're here to find some deep philosophical story that leaves behind a beautiful message for you to take home, then maybe you should watch Steins Gate for that. But if you're looking for a genuinely intriguing and entertaining show, then you're in for a heck of a ride. This is a densely packed 25 episode anime with no dull episodes at all, and honestly, it was such an exciting anime to follow along when it was first airing back in spring and summer 2022. Because half the fun of watching a long-running mystery show like Summertime Render is continuously speculating what the mystery could be about, only to be proven wrong again and again, and being able to share that experience with other fans of the series. Which is exactly why it's such a damn shame that Disney, for some stupid reason, decided to delay the release of Summertime Render outside Japan by almost half an year on their site, which caused the anime to lose any hopes of ever becoming popular while it was actually being released in 2022. Part of the legacy that Summertime Render has left behind is that it is either an absolutely underrated anime and seriously dark show, or one that fell victim to the infamous Disney jail. Not only did Disney kill all the hype for Summertime Render with its weird ass release schedule, but it also never advertised the anime after its official release under any capacity whatsoever. I highly recommend the video by Mother's Basement on how Disney absolutely sucks at promoting anime on their site, but the point here is, for all the hard work that went into every part of this anime, Summertime Render deserved a whole lot of attention and recognition, but instead, it was locked away and left to wither and die out a slow, gruesome death by the hands of the very same streaming service who paid for the goddamn anime in the first place. It's unfortunate that an anime this interesting, having this strong of a hook and a well-rounded satisfying payoff, was left to be advertised not by the people who licensed it, but by the audience who watched it. But the good thing is, that audience has done an amazing job at spreading the word about this anime. Slowly but surely, things have started turning around in the right direction for Summertime Render, with more and more people making videos on it during the years that followed its initial release, because of which, a lot of people came to know about this amazing anime they had missed out on, to the point that the anime has now went from not even being in the top 10 to becoming the 4th most popular anime of its season. I mean heck, even Hideo Kojima randomly stumbled across the anime last year and binged the entire first 10 episodes in a night, calling the show surprisingly fun and saying that he can't stop thinking about it. And the funniest part is, he found the show not on Disney, But on Netflix, how did Disney fuck up this badly? I'm just happy that Summertime Render is starting to get the attention and love that it deserves, and I hope it continues to grow in popularity as time passes by. You should definitely check out the anime if you found anything that I just said to be even remotely interesting, and you should also consider subscribing. I'll be back soon with another video, and until then, thanks for watching.